featured in a short.
Hello and welcome to Feature in a Short. I am your host, Justin Joseph Hall, director and editor at Fourwind Films. Feature in a Short is an intimate documentary-style film event that features a short and a long-form movie and discussion. Today on our podcast, we're featuring our live event with appointed contributor Colin Buckingham. And Colin is a friend of mine. He's an artist and actor, fight choreographer, who relates to society as a whole more sensitively than anybody I've ever met. He cares deeply about the media that not only he creates, but who he creates media with and the messages that he's telling. With that, let me kick it over to Colin. Here's his intro of the short film he presented November 9th, written from personal experiences on the election night in 2016.
So it's based on something that actually happened in real life. I got to eventually put a team together, and through the generous support of all my many Irish relatives, they helped support. And so yeah, here we are a few years later, and we filmed in late 2019.
All right, let's do it. During the film, we served beer, as November 9th is entirely set in a bar. After, we had a short discussion. What was it like doing the fight choreography?
It was tricky. Something that we talked about a lot was balancing like realism, because weight classes in fighting exist for a reason, and I'm pretty severely outweighed 4 times over in this film. So our solution was to have them be very incompetent and not good at fighting, and then have me be slightly better at fighting so it doesn't just become John Wick. It's balancing the level of violence that one can sustain before counting in adrenaline and all these other things that like make you ride out stuff that might otherwise be not as survivable. And then choosing the different levels of escalation for each of the 4 other people as far as like when they get involved, timing everything else. Because like if 4 people decide immediately, all right, we're taking on this person, doesn't matter if I'm like 6'6", like I'm not surviving an encounter with 4 people ganging up on me all at the same time. Figuring out how to stagger it in a way where it didn't fall into that trope of people waiting on the sidelines to attack the main character, using cinematography and sort of storying the choreography when it became serious for them, relying on the fact that like a lot of people don't take people with disabilities, let alone people with dwarfism, seriously. Having them each choose to actually take it seriously as a threat was definitely a thing.
Well, obviously you started writing this after 2016, since we find that out right at the beginning, but how long did it take to write it in the end?
Well, it kind of went through multiple iterations of what I wanted it to be. Initially, I just wanted it to be a fight film, and then this is also my first thing I've ever made. There are things that I definitely would have done different, but wouldn't know to have done them different without making it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was relatively short once I started scripting. I think I started actually scripting it out in like April, and then we filmed in July.
You helped produce this as well?
Yeah, so I did a Seed and Spark campaign for it.
Yeah, okay.
That's where my Irish relatives came in.
Did you do the fight choreography?
Yeah, so we had a stunt coordinator, Jared, on set, but like choreographing everything out, and then he helped once we were in the space, like figuring out what we could and couldn't realistically do. That was sort of in line with what I originally wanted to do.
What was it like rehearsing the pickup and subsequent settling onto bar to bar?
There was a crash pad when I initially got slammed down, but through the magic of editing and movie making, I think I'm really proud of how that shot specifically, because it looks pretty seamless.
Yeah.
Also, the guy that was the main physical antagonist, because he was very super experienced stuntman and stunt coordinator.
Oh, really?
He was really good at pretending to give force and letting me receive it and act it out on my own without it going too method.
The actual true story, did you have to change, or like how faithful was it to the...
So, day is the same. It was literally the day after the 2016 election. There's an alternate timeline where there's an encounter was just with one person and another person who was sort of enabling that person. But I wanted this to be kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different stuff that I've experienced into one sort of Murphy's Law kind of night where just everything continues to go wrong and escalate. Because the night itself, I was at a nightclub that I used to work at. And so I went there with a friend of mine. And then I was walking back from the bathroom, and we did recreate the thing that actually happened, where someone grabbed me and like pinned my arms behind me. Then I kicked, and then he let me go. And then I took a lift home. It was a lift pool because I'm broke.
You had a bunch of extras and stuff. How did you get the extras?
Just
fill up the bar.
friends, people that were loosely connected to the fight community. We made sure to pay everyone. That was like my main thing, is like everyone who was on set gets paid.
Did your friend actually go home before it happened, like in the film?
I don't fully remember what happened. He was married at the time, and I think he had gone home early to be a partner and that kind of thing.
Oh.
So
That night we were watching the election here, and people came in and they were just like, somebody started crying, and
I think I was just like in shock. I just had this moment of like cognitive dissonance. I think it's called derealization, when you just, this can't be the reality that I'm in. We elected a reality TV star president. How is this a thing? Like.
How'd you find the cinematographer? Was it you or the director? Because they were really good.
So I worked with Dominic before on this adaptation of Tamberlane, and then I asked him if he was down to do this, and he very thankfully said yes. He knows how to do Steadicam, and like he has a really cool setup. So
did you have to license the election, or did you just fair use it?
that's a great question that I'm not sure of the answer to, but I know that I got confirmation from people that aren't me that it was legal.
Yeah, okay.
I also want to shout out to V. Wynn, who rigged all of that to play at the same time. We had it all connected to one thing, and then we had to change it for the different camera setups. And she managed to make it so it all looped at the same time and all was connected to different sources, but still looked like we just had it actually as like a news broadcast. Even the background shots and the shots where it's in the main thing.
Like that where the elections were happening, I always thought like that was such a negative time, like just the like right, there was like just negative vibes all over. So just the fact that it was there, and I was like, man, something bad's just gonna go down just because everything.
Yeah, I
was,
mean,
like,
it's very
it was
like
such a-
foreshadowing. Kind
Yeah,
of.
yes, yeah. Something
Just like the date itself is foreshadowing.
yeah. I was like, oh.
Well, you think that played into what happened as well?
From what I remember, kids were getting bullied. I was scared sometimes to be in public if I was like, this is looking like a Trumpy area. I was like, I gotta get out. I was like, so, because it would give those people that were voting for him, I don't know, just be mean, like be extra mean. Like, like let out maybe their true colors, which is like people don't get like, well, Trump is, you know, for trying to say good things about him, but they forget like he was, it's almost like he had this just giving off hate.
No, he's a bad person.
And
Like,
people don't get that.
he's bragged about committing felonies. Like, he's not a
Yeah,
good person.
yeah.
Like, when I was out that night, I remember there being like three sort of categories of people. There were people that were upset and really pissed off, and then there were people who were celebrating, and then the people who were libertarians who were like, I don't care either way. I let's just party or whatever. I don't know why people are so upset. Weirdly enough, I wanted to make this as non-directly political as possible with the film. I don't want there to be actual lines of dialogue commenting on how bad this is, because one, there have been multiple films made that have already done this, and two, it's very much an echo chamber at this point. So me saying anything wouldn't be adding anything new to the conversation. I wanted it to be more of a symptom of what he brings, of the people that feel entitled to just do whatever they want, and then also the bystander effect of people thinking that, oh, well, I'm not actively doing bad things, so I'm not a bad person. And it's like, no, you're just allowing them to happen.
The next feature that Colin chose to show was Unidentified Objects.
This is a very beautiful, wonderful feature called Unidentified Objects, and I wanted to sort of challenge how people with disabilities and dwarfism are given permission to be seen as in the industry. And I think that the feature film does that as well, as far as challenging what people with dwarfism are relegated to.
During the feature, we had for our audiences soda, French fries, takeout Chinese, and a classic diner ham sandwich. And after watching that film, we had a chat.
But yeah, the sort of theme of both of these showing dwarfism in ways that I feel the industry at large considers uncomfortable, because often disability is relegated to like inspiration porn or trauma porn, even though we're desexualized. They like making us into the metaphorical porn.
I like how they got along. Eventually, he started protecting her.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't stand her, and then he was like, kind of like.
It was like a good juxtaposition, because I feel like the couple was sort of matching the vibes. The person who was more crisscross, like the one that liked the podcast, was more on his side, and the one who's wearing the shiny suit was more on her side.
Yeah.
And then they sort of swapped because he was like, oh yeah, you like Chekhov. And then she was like, yeah, it's just they're so far stuck up their own ass. And then he was like, I want there to be more things that describe the daily life of people with disabilities. Because a lot of what this film touched on and sort of what the short touched on is things that we experience as far as feeling separated from just people in general. It can be isolating, especially if you deal with chronic pain and with just at bars and social gatherings. Sitting down isn't the common thing. It's hard to have eye contact with everyone. And there's all these studies about how eye contact and being face-to-face with someone fuels connection and that kind of thing. So it's easy to feel separated from that.
And thank you for listening to Feature in a Short. You should sign up for our newsletter online. Check out our website in the contact section. Plenty of things to look forward to, including our event for Feature in a Short. Sign up for the emails and you will be informed first. But in the forecast to look forward to, keep an eye out for a Netflix-supported short film, Super Hair, directed by Lenice Hunter. Our very own Ricky Rosario helped produce, along with Sarah Seligman, the editor of the podcast. Billy Joe Layton had a few drone shots in there. I worked as a post-producer and did some sound editing on it. Super Hair is supported by the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, also known as LALIF. It's a story about magical realism. We had a really cool animation section that we produced and put towards the end of the film. So definitely check out that short. Should be touring around film festivals this year. And with that, I would like to thank everybody who worked on the show. Thank you, Laura Davi, for helping set up the event. Billy Joe Layton for editing this podcast. Hans Bilger mixing. And the new theme song that you're listening to is New Tires by Silent Partner. All right, that's all for now. Thanks for coming back, and I'll talk at you soon. Peace.